Narcos Mexico star trashes Trump immigration policies while guest hosting Kimmel. Yeah, I've done more than 70 movies and shows. But if Fox News is talking about it, that means I'm probably on Donald Trump's radar now. So I've taken a few extra precautions. I have my suitcase packed. Why does Donald Trump want to screw immigrants? Why? Because the one he married won't screw him.
Why does Fox News lose it when a Latina comedian punches back, but cheer when Trump swears like a sailor? You're about to uncover their double standards, their outrage playbook, and one late-night joke that's got them clutching their pearls. Spoiler, it's as hypocritical as it is hilarious. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Diego Luna didn't just show up on Jimmy Kimmel Live to chat about his career. He landed a comedic jab so sharp, it sent Fox News into a full-blown meltdown. Luna, star of shows like Andor, turned his wit toward Donald Trump's infamous anti-immigration stance. In one brief riff, the actor laughed about how Trump had managed the impossible, uniting Latinos not by building a wall, but by being the human version of it.
I didn't come up with those, by the way. If you want to deport someone, I know the writers.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
Trump has been updating everyone on the situation in the Middle East. It is very complicated, but thankfully your president is a political genius.
The punchline? It wasn't just sharp, it was personal. Luna hit a nerve, calling out Trump's polarizing rhetoric in a way that perfectly echoed the frustrations of many immigrants. But instead of shrugging it off, Fox News did what they do best, light the outrage bonfire. Now, was Luna's joke disrespectful? Maybe to people still clutching onto Trump's border dreams. But considering the network that once labeled comedians like Jon Stewart as destroyers of civility, their reaction to Luna felt a little over the top. Fox News didn't just call the joke tasteless. They spent segment after segment amplifying their collective outrage. One anchor referred to it as part of a larger smear campaign on the values this country was built on.
Donald Trump posted that after Jessica called the immigrant cop who got killed by an American citizen at the mass shooting in Manhattan. She called him a hero.
Trump knows how weak the Europeans are, and he squeezed $1 trillion out of them. Trump's imposing his will on the world and making other countries invest here after decades of American companies investing over there.
And that led to Donald Trump posting that. That was the segment that then Donald Trump made that post.
Really? A joke about Trump's ego and his magical ability to alienate entire communities. That's what broke the moral fabric of America. Here's where it gets perfectly ironic. Fox News, the same network that spent literal years mocking everything from climate protests to Kamala Harris's laugh, couldn't handle one comedian poking fun at Trump's immigration policies. They'll gleefully skewer anyone who challenges the narrative they push, but the moment someone aims fire at them, they crumble faster than a paper bag in the rain. Jimmy Kimmel even chimed in later, chuckling at their response, saying, "Fox is so thin-skinned, you'd think Trump wrote their entire programming lineup." Well, maybe he does. And it's not like this is the first time Fox has cornered themselves this way. Remember when Michelle Wolf hosted the White House Correspondents' Dinner? She made a joke about Sarah Huckabee Sanders' lying mascara-worthy statements, and Fox dubbed her vicious. Or when Samantha Bee once called Ivanka Trump. Well, a word I won't repeat here, Fox News labeled it disgusting and begged for apologies on a loop for weeks. Interesting how a network that thrives on talking tough can seem so incredibly fragile when someone steps outside their echo chamber.
Oh, and then Donald Trump raged and said, "Everybody's saying that I was solely responsible for firing Stephen Colbert from CBS Late Night. That is not true. The reason he was fired was a pure lack of talent. Colbert renegotiated his contract in 2023, and then you and your FCC bullied CBS into a settlement with you, and you're using the federal government to attack comedians, and it's utterly freaking pathetic." Jimmy Kimmel, and then a weak and very insecure Jimmy Fallon. The only real question is who will go first. Showbiz and television is very simple business.
Of course, Trump wasn't going to let this one slide either. Within days, he amplified Fox News' outrage on his social media media platform, howling about the disrespect and accusing Hollywood of leading an anti-American campaign. Because, you know, if there's one thing Trump is deeply concerned about, it's respect. Nothing says man of grace more than calling your enemies losers on a daily basis. In typical Trump fashion, he turned a joke into a pity parade. Diego Luna, with a few cheeky lines, suddenly became the poster child of Hollywood's supposed war on freedom. But why? Why did one joke seem to shake the walls of this propaganda fortress? It's simple. Fox News doesn't just see jokes, they see challenges. And comedy, especially when wielded by someone they've decided isn't one of them, becomes a threat to their carefully crafted image. Someone like Luna, speaking up as a Latino actor, isn't just making a joke to them, he's making a statement that undermines their control of the narrative. This isn't just about Diego Luna, Jimmy Kimmel, or even Trump. It's a broader fear within Fox and their biggest cheerleader. They rely on creating outrage, then monopolizing it. So when a comedian turns that same spotlight back on them, they panic. They're not mad at one joke. They're terrified of losing their grip. And honestly, if a punchline can do that much damage, maybe their entire message wasn't as solid as they thought. But speaking of messaging, let's address the salt in the wound, Fox News' long-standing double standard when it comes to language. Donald Trump's salty language has always been part of his public persona, whether he's complaining about global leaders, praising dictators, or just riffing about his enemies. Tossing in a casual F-bomb is hardly shocking anymore. It's Trump's thing, and Fox News eats it up. Case in point, his recent comments about the tense situation between Israel and Iran. Trump dropped the F-word while discussing how he'd handle negotiations, and Fox News host Emily Compagno could not have been more thrilled.
So, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Go yourself.
You know, I was wondering if that was the first time a US president had said the F word on live television. But it turns out it's not. Can I talk about Jeff Bezos, Lori? Yeah, is he gonna deport me or not?
Only to space.
She gushed over his bluntness, calling it authentic, and even suggesting that his F-bomb diplomacy worked because a ceasefire eventually took hold. Apparently, colorful vocabulary is an act of genius when it's coming from Trump. Emily Compagno's reaction to Crockett was a perfect example of how much race and gender magnify these double standards. Fox News loves to play up the narrative that women in politics should act ladylike, especially women of color. The same rules, of course, don't apply to men like Trump, who can drop F-bombs and insult people left and right while being hailed as a straight shooter. They frame swearing by Republicans as fiery and commanding, but treat the same behavior from Democrats as trashy and out of line. It's not just inconsistency, it's part of a broader pattern designed to silence voices they don't like. And let's be real, when Fox decides someone's tone isn't patriotic enough, it's never random. There's a reason women, minorities, and Democrats usually find themselves on the receiving end of this selective outrage. It reflects deeper biases baked into how Fox defines acceptable behavior. Trump's swearing is celebrated as leadership, while others are criticized as loud or disrespectful. The message is clear: only certain people deserve to speak boldly. The absurdity of all this is hard to ignore. Watching Fox News twist itself into knots defending Trump's language while vilifying others is almost laughable. They're not enforcing any real moral standards here. They're enforcing their political branding. It's about keeping their audience fired up, convinced that every word spoken by a Democrat is an attack on American values. And if the rules don't hold up under scrutiny, no problem, change the rules. But this juggling act isn't without consequences. When your outrage is this obviously biased, it starts to undermine your credibility. If F-bombs are only okay when your guy drops them, how can anyone take your moral outrage seriously? This isn't about decency, it's about controlling the narrative. And speaking of control, Fox's obsession with outrage seems to have an even bigger purpose. Let's unpack how it works to keep their audience distracted from the issues that really matter. If there's one thing Fox News has truly mastered, it's turning molehills into mountains, and then selling tickets to the mountain tour. Lately, the network's outrage machine has been working overtime, with one of its most bizarre controversies being woke Lego friends.
Donald Trump posted, "I can't stand Jessica Tarlov of the Five, a real loser!" DJT. Donald Trump was absolutely raging in public over Fox host Jessica Tarlov, and despite state regime media, aka Fox, doing everything it can to cover up for Donald Trump's Epstein connections. Donald Trump has to attack her, a powerful female, crushing it on the Fox shout out.
And this is the news that they get on a phone call. What a hero. I didn't know, and I still don't know much about the second officer, but Officer Islam, hearing that last night that he has 2 kids and an 8-month pregnant wife.
That's right. Fox News managed to squeeze an entire segment out of a children's toy line that added more diversity, like characters with disabilities. Jimmy Kimmel didn't let this one slide, of course. He aired a hilarious supercut of Fox hosts actually losing their minds over Lego's supposed wokeness, which somehow, in their world, represents the downfall of Western civilization. Kimmel joked, "Maybe Lego will give us the wheelchair-bound reporter Fox needs after that meltdown." The clip was funny, sure, but more importantly, it showed just how predictable Fox's outrage cycles have become. This isn't random. These distractions are strategic. While Fox throws a hissy fit about Lego sets, they keep their audience hyper-focused on cultural threats instead of real issues. Inflation? Barely mentioned. Rising rents? Crickets? Climate change? Hardly a peep. But if there's an M&M in a pair of high heels, or a pride flag in a movie, you'd think the world was ending based on their coverage. It's part of a larger pattern where superficial controversies become the main event. Even Trump's bizarrely specific response to Jimmy Kimmel's joke, calling Hollywood un-American, fits right into this approach. Focusing on cultural battles keeps the audience emotionally charged and deeply loyal, which is convenient when Fox doesn't want people looking too hard at the bigger picture. Let's not pretend this tactic is accidental. It mirrors the strategies Donald Trump himself frequently uses. Whenever he faces criticism or real issues that could damage his image, he deflects with a spectacle. Need an example? Remember when inflation was all people could talk about? Trump wasn't talking about solutions. He was lashing out at Jessica Tarlov for saying a heroic immigrant police officer deserved respect. Moments like that aren't random, they're deliberate. Trump drags attention toward culture wars because it keeps everything surface level, uncomplicated, and easy for his base to process. Instead of grappling with complex problems, they're fed theater. And not just any theater. Theater full of villains like the Hollywood elite or woke liberals.
You know, Jimmy was very smart to hand his show over to me just as Trump decided to go crazy dropping bombs over the weekend. Thanks a lot, Jimmy. Good luck. With everything going on in this country around immigration and authoritarian policies of Donald Trump, it is no small thing that a Mexican is hosting such an important show. The first time that I voluntarily set foot in the territory known as the United States, I was 20 years old. After the success of Y Tu Mamá También.
Fox News plays the same game, often downplaying real issues for something flashy and low stakes. During one segment, the host actually gushed about Trump's dad strength, showcasing video of him swinging a golf club as if that were the answer to America's economic woes. Meanwhile, families across the country are struggling with higher prices and job security, and Fox's audience is too busy worrying about rainbow-colored candy to notice. What's the real cost of this kind of coverage? For starters, it keeps people detached from issues that actually affect their day-to-day lives. Things like inflation or affordable healthcare don't get resolved when networks like Fox spend more time complaining about the war on Christmas than on worker exploitation or climate policy. But more than that, it reinforces a warped sense of what matters. When serious topics are replaced with manufactured outrage, people start to feel like the real fight is happening over Starbucks cup designs instead of voting rights or economic reform. And that's exactly how Fox News wants it. This approach also lets the network avoid accountability. Think about it. If viewers are too caught up in the latest woke panic to notice real missteps, then Fox doesn't have to explain their inaccurate takes or failed predictions. They can cycle out of one outrage story and into another before anyone catches on. This constant churn is exhausting on purpose. It keeps audience members too distracted to look elsewhere. That said, cracks are starting to show. Viewers are calling out the absurdity online, pointing out how these news segments feel more like staged temper tantrums than journalism. Even Kimmel's audience can see through it, laughing not just at supercuts of Fox's hysteria, but at the sheer transparency of their motives. The theater works until it doesn't, and as more people recognize that Fox's outrage campaigns are just smokescreens, you have to wonder, isn't the jig up? But for now, it's still outrage as usual over at Fox. Their model relies on distraction, fear, and a pinch of melodrama to keep the ratings high and the stories shallow. What's interesting is how closely tied this is to their survival. Without these so-called controversies, the illusion of relevance starts to collapse. And with that in mind, it's clear that critical thinking is the best antidote to the noise. Fox News isn't in the business of informing, it's in the business of controlling. The hypocrisy on display, from praising Trump's F-bombs to condemning Jasmine Crockett for the same, shows their moral outrage is as performative as it is selective. This isn't about language or values, it's about maintaining power over the narrative while keeping viewers distracted with Lego controversies and celebrity jabs. Comedy like Diego Luna's jab exposes this fragile act. The joke's not just on Donald Trump or Fox, it's on anyone falling for their noise. So question the outrage, seek the facts, and never forget, transparency beats theatrics.